بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور، ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون. والصلاة والسلام على نبينا الكريم محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وبعد.
All praise is due to Allah, who has created the heavens and the earth, and made darknesses and light. Then they who disbelieve in what Allah created, ascribing partners to Him, did it knowingly. This is a Dawah by the Hour production.
Thursday Night Halakha for November 1, 2007. An interview with a Jinn.
Getting deeper into that issue. Al-Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, you know Ibn al-Qayyim. One of his books is entitled Ar-Ruh, the spirit or the soul. And that book is an exciting one. Yet the great scholar said, you're not, sorry, excuse me. It's not necessary that you accept everything of it and take it for granted. Because part of that book is what he collected from the Athar and the old books, the people of the books. Of the section which we do not deny, we neither deny nor accept. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't prohibit us from narrating things which do not contradict the Quran or the Sunnah. Why am I saying this? Because this experience of that book, which was entitled An Interview with a Jinni Muslim, who is a great friend of the one who interviewed him, and which took place in front of one of the major sheikhs in Egypt. And the guy is well known as a Muslim journalist who behaves himself and respects his word. He's narrating his experience with that jinni who spent much time talking to him, and he asked him more than 100 questions about the life and the jinni's world. And the guy was so frank and open to him that 90% of his questions he answered in an amazing way, which gave people an indication. Yet I'm still saying we should not take everything like 100% for granted. He's a Muslim jinni from India who is a prince amongst the jinnis. And after his Islam, 10,000 of his bodyguards of jinnis adopted Islam. That's to give you an idea about that type of interview. I will not take it consequently, meaning because it's too long. But what is excellent about the book is the brother is always giving evidence and proof from the book and the Sunnah. And the authentic ones, Al-Bukhari and Muslim and Al-Sahih, Al-Kutub Al-Sittah. And whatever he can't find a dalil for, he says it very clearly, that's what the jinni told me, and Allahu A'lam. The jinni was named Abdul Hakim after his Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Oh, they sent you here to enjoy listening to, I know that policy. Allah understand. He wants to be closer. Maybe he would be, inshallah, one of the healers in the future, inshallah. Okay. We started last session with about 5 or 6 pages, and I stopped at something a bit dramatic or exciting that I said we'll continue next time. طيب. I'll try to pick up some of the questions from the consequence. The brother here, I will not go through the dalail from Al-Kitab and Sunnah because it will take a very long time. But whoever would like to benefit from that, he can, inshallah, and he's good at Arabic language, he can, I can photocopy that book to him, which is not sold anymore here because it's out of print. I asked the Jinni Muslim, are you recording, guys? Allah musta'an. How old would the jinnis live? He said some of them for thousands of years. Some of us live up to 3,000 years. Others live for 4 or 5 or 6,000 years. But it is rare that someone lives up to 7,000 years. As for Iblis, he has been since Allah sent Adam down and he's alive. And he has his throne somewhere on earth, on the water, in an island. And his 5 kids, and he mentioned some names for the 5 kids of Iblis. The main 5 ones are still alive with him. I asked him, and how old are you? He paused for a while, and he was staring at me, because one of the things, strange things which happened is, he saw him in his real shape. He was possessing one of his relatives before he became Muslim. And he stayed in him until, for those weeks until that was finished. So he stared in him as if he's seeing through my eyes into my depths, guessing, what do I mean? Who is trying to read something. And then I repeated the question, how old are you? He said, swear by Allah that you won't try to harm me or to hurt me. That's the jinni. I was surprised and shocked at this. I said, أقسم بالله العظيم لا أضرك. Why should I do that? He said, I'm still young. Compared to the human being, I'm like 15 or 17 with the human rate. He said, no, I want your real age. With the rate of the jinnis. He said 180. Which is, I'm in my adolescence. 180. He later explained to him that a baby jinni would nurse his mom for almost 40 or 50, up to 50 years. And he's still nursing. Most of the time, a baby jinni would be asleep. Not active, a baby.
So 40 years?
Yeah. Taking the milk of his mom, and he said, milk, exactly like you, human beings, and sleeping. As for your dad, is he still alive? Because he talked about thousands of years. He said, no, he died in a battle. He was kafir, disbeliever, he's dead. Which took place between him and his right-hand helper, whose name was Hud. And he was 950 years when he passed away. As for my great-grandfather, he was up to the sky trying to pick up something from the angels. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a shihab on him, which destroyed him. And he was thousands of years old when he died. I said, do you know exactly how old he was? He said, no. But he was mu'ammar, like those extremely old, very old. Down here, وَقَدْ أَخْرَجَ الْبُخَارِيُّ فِي صَحِيحِهِ. Everything is by evidence. This, yes, happens in the world of jinn according to what the Quran said or what the Prophet ﷺ said. All that is narrated here. طيب. Allah musta'an. In this new chapter of the book, I would bring some known information to the people of experience and knowledge. But still there are surprises and shocks for many people. Oh, this. Even in the American and Western world. And we might explain some of the phenomena that many people are bewildered when they think of. If we want to realize or picture or view that al-Jinn live in every spot of this earth, and to make it closer to the mind, I would say that man lives on the dry land only, right? Except when he travels, sails by boat or by plane. And the oceans and the seas cover most of our planet. More than 72%. Whereas the dry land is only 28% or even less. And experts are telling us that the water is taking more space every day because of the melting of the poles. Which made some experts to give our planet the title the water planet, because it is 70% of it is water. And not all the dry space left is inhabited by people. Lots of it is desert, as you all know, right? Subhanallah. They occupy less than 1/4 of that dry land left.
They meaning us?
Yeah. No, the human beings.
Right.
Go to Egypt. In Egypt, we only live on the banks of the river
In Cairo.
Nile. La. Most of Cairo is what? Deserts and mountains. But we live on the river bank. Now, he moved from that to the world of the jinnis. He said, Al-Jinn has got their own cities, countries, and camps. Most of it is on the water, which we do not inhabit. On the surface of the water. Sulaiman used them to build him castles and palaces at the bottom and on the surface. And when Balqis came from Yemen and she got into one of the palaces of Sulaiman, she thought it was water, so she moved her dress a little bit not to get wet. So he smiled and laughed, and everybody in the company laughed and said, it's crystal. And that crystal was on the surface of the water. It was so clear that she thought she's getting into water. And that's in the Quran. Right? قال إنه صرح ممرد من قوارير. طيب. And he has got camps and cities at the depth of the sea. My body in scuba diving. Have you ever got that feeling when we were at 150 or 40 feet down and we were looking around us and not seeing my body, that there is something? I did. You were my body for many times, and Khalifa was my body for many times. I had this feeling, especially when I get into a cave and watch for eels or stingrays. There was a feeling of, I'm not the only one who is giving bubbles at that place. There are some, sort of boom, and not fish. Subhanallah. Akhi, Allahu A'lam. But I'm telling you, we've been licensed by PADI, the American Association, for almost 8 years now, or more. More than 8 years, 10 years almost, right? And we're both advanced divers. But we need to practice, right? This might fall, I'm afraid. I'll do my best not to cover it. And okay. Is that a command? Okay, he said, at the depths of the seas, oceans and rivers, they have got kingdoms, cities, constructions, and together with the great deserts of the world, from Nevada in America to the Sahara in Africa to that of Asia, Siberia, full of kingdoms for the Jinn. All the high mountains are their camps. All the empty places are their camps. So this planet is inhabited. Maybe there is not a span without someone yusabbihullah or yahmadullah. They inhabit the caves in the mountains. Some of them do inhabit the holes, like snakes. The holes and the cracks. And with all this enormous presence, they are crowding us in our own homes and rooms, at work, in the streets. So if you can see the jinnis, you would see no free space in the whole world, if you are allowed to see the jinnis. Now we believe that they are with us, because each one of us has got a qareen from al-jinn, and a qareen, and he's listening now, and he might be saying, oh, this guy got that information, but he's not that accurate in this. Maybe, Allahu A'lam. Some of them are permanent stayers in our houses, in our rooms, in our halls, in our yards. And some of them are devils and shayateen which inhabit our toilets and bathrooms. That's why we say, Na'udhu billahi min al-khubuthi wal-khaba'ith. And some of them inhabit the sewage, small sewage holes. It is their home.
Are they either good or bad, or are they like...
No, those inhabiting inside are the evil ones.
No, I'm
The
saying...
toilet.
I'm saying, are they like people, like, for example, all quote-unquote mushrik of the humans aren't quote-unquote evil?
No.
I mean, they're mushrik, we know that,
No.
but they're not always harming Muslims like this and like that. So are some of them like that also?
Na'am.
Okay.
But whoever is shaitan is only evil.
Sir.
But because there are two types, he explained to him that jinnis and shayateen are two different types. They are made from the same fire, but the fire is like something different from the nature of the fire a shaitan is made of and the jinnis are made from. He will explain that. But when he asked him for more, he said, I can't say anymore. That's it. طيب. In a nutshell, they are a unique world by themselves. They feel their own world as if it is their own homes, plantation, cities, history, faith and dogmas, parties, populations, kings, universities, hospitals, and everything you imagine in your world is found in the jinni's world. Later on we will know that the Salafi jinnis, females, are covered ones with veils. You might be shocked to know that. طيب. Those who live in the cities or villages or towns mostly are Muslims, whereas some of them are not. But the others who are not Muslims don't prefer to live in the cities and towns, and except in the toilets and those places, dirty places. Christian jinnis inhabit the Christian houses, mostly. And most of the Christian jinnis are settled in the churches. They love it. The Jewish ones in their abbeys and with the Jewish people. And a huge number are found in the so-called Israel. Affected and affecting. So there is like interaction, like a circle. The Muslim jinn is always seeking Muslim house to live in. And they seek the true Muslim practicing ones, not the ones by name, because they want to learn from them and to be behind them in salah, even if they're not aware. If they pray a sunnah, you would find 5, 6 of them or 10, a family of Muslim jinnis, and they are exactly having a line of adults, then kids, then their females behind you, praying with you. And if you beautifully, affect their voice, your voice of Quran, they would love you and get closer to you, never harming you. On the opposite, they try their best to defend you against any evil jinni. Yet, their percentage amongst the whole jinnis all over the world is like the percentage of the Muslims. And the practicing ones are like the practicing ones amongst the Muslims. So they're suffering, being persecuted, being put in jail, being killed, being tortured, exactly as many of the true Muslims are treated in this dunya. You'd be amazed to know that. When a Muslim jinni finds that those Muslims are not practicing Islam, they are Muslims by name, they are not praying, they would leave very upset and sad, seeking another house which the name of Allah is mentioned sincerely in. A Muslim jinni is extremely sincere in his deen, and he is applying his deen extremely literally, letter by letter. And his heart is full of iman, that when he hears the Quran, he immediately tears down. And he has got that inhaling and exhaling loud, as the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba did, and moaning and sighing from the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other jinnis, when they hear him, they are moved to crying as well. I asked my colleague, is there any Muslim jinni in my house you can see? He said, yes. All the jinnis in your house are Muslims. And I'll give you 2 of their names, Saeed and Morjan. They are the 2 sons of a mother jinniya called Zubaydah. And her husband is Muhammad, the father of the 2. And they've got many kids, other kids, hanging in the roof of your room now. And they are like servants of that house. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is driving away, dismissing many of the hardships of that house because of the presence of those jinnis here. I said, don't they get tired from being hanging and sticking to the roof? He said, the whole day they are like that. Once they put the food, they get down, say Bismillah and eat with you. Which doesn't affect the amount of food you're eating. It increases the blessings. If you remove the food, they thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and get back hanging. Until the night comes. When they pray al-Isha and they hang to the roof a little, if they feel tired, they get down and sleep on any couch, cushion, or chair in this very hall you have. But they wake up during the night for tahajjud, pray the night, then pray al-Fajr, and when they fly around the roof, they keep remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are blessed, my dear brother. I said, don't they leave the house for any need or travel or anything? He said, yes, they do. Naam. Alaykum salam. Travel and they come back. Sometimes they go to Al-Haram for prayer, either in Mecca or in Medina, and they come in a blinking of an eye to their house, yours. I said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the house for me, my family, and for them. Then he commented, he said, the presence of the Jinni Muslim in a house, in a Muslim house, is a sign of goodness and a proof for blessing and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because that Jinni makes dua for the inhabitants. That I'm used to finish Salatul Isha and go back home. For some emergency, which I still can remember exactly when. I wanted to catch, there was some emergency and I wanted to catch the Jama'ah was done. Not here in Saudi Arabia. It happened here once, but in Egypt, the other 4 or 5. And I went home, I go home, and I totally forgot. Because I'm not used to praying Al-Farida at home. So I make my wudu, brush my teeth, say my dhikr and sleep. Sometimes I sleep late. Almost 1 o'clock. And the Fajr is 3:30 when it is winter time. It's very early. And when I sleep late, I need at least 3 to 4 hours to wake up. With the help of my family, my mom, rahimahullah, whatever, they wake me up with the adhan. But this happened. That something wakes me up very fresh, at least 40 minutes before the adhan al-fajr. And this echo is saying, Al-Isha, Al-Isha. And upon this, all those times, tears come on my cheeks there. He doesn't want Al-Fajr to come without me fulfilling my duty, Al-Isha. And I rush, and I make my wudu, pray my Isha, and to thank Allah, praise Him for that, whatever Allah blesses me with raka'at, until the time for adhan. So if it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have, taken that 100%, but it happened. So, he said, they might wake you up li Salatul Fajr or Qiyamul Layl. And if your qareen would be a Muslim, which is not so much. So please don't commit sins and scare them with sins. Or else they would leave your home. And they would be upset of you because you dismissed them. And you are giving the space and the place for shayateen to take their place. And if the Jinni Muslim inhabits your house, the angels would be more and more and more in your home. The Jinni Muslim said, I'll tell you something important you human beings are not aware of. I said, khayran. He said, the shayateen, you want to send him to his mom? His mom won't accept him now. He said, ash-shayateen, the devils, love to live in stinking places. And they are much attracted to an-najasa. They love it. And the terrible and horrible smell. That's why when a shaitan hears al-adhan, he farts. Because he loves the bad smell to cover him and run away. You studied that from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And one of the ways of healing someone possessed is to call adhan. Because this adhan is like burning him bit by bit. Repeating al-adhan and reading from Surah As-Saffat, 10 ayat and some procedure only those experienced know. So when they hear the adhan, they run away to the nearest toilet. And they put their hands on their ears not to hear the adhan, or use their thobe to cover themselves. Some of them skip and jump in a second into the sewage holes or the sink, the hole of the sink. That's why if you get into Dawratul Miyah, use your left foot and say the dua before you get in. Warn your family and your daughters from spilling boiled water in those holes without saying Bismillah. If they need to, for the sake of cleaning or whatever, let them say Bismillah first. This Bismillah will keep them away from the harm of the shayateen. Because this might kill one of the jinnis or a shayateen, so his family or his mom would try to revenge from the inhabitants of the house without being aware that they did it, not aware. But saying Bismillah would put those barriers between you and them, their heart. Especially females, because she's the one who more attached to this. And if they are enabled to possess, they won't hesitate. They would do that. Saying Bismillah and saying the dua fills in the gaps of your soul for them. They can't penetrate. But forgetting that and getting to the toilet and having the habit of some foolish ones sing and have rock while they're taking the shower, this opens the holes of your soul for the shayateen. And if you're saved from a shaitan with the favor of Allah, you can't guarantee the continuation of that safety. Beware of idols or statues or pictures hanging on the walls. But yes, of living things. He said, Alhamdulillah, I never had any of that in my house, but I had a goose, like a small goose, with its inside like an opening, a hole. I make it for the garbage. It was like for the garbage bin. The garbage was designed like a goose. Suddenly in our meeting, in my meeting, first meeting with that Jinni Muslim, he was looking right and left and worried. And he was looking at the ceiling and saying salam. Suddenly he saw that goose. So he was furious with much care and said, is it made of rubber? I confirmed. He said, get a knife now and chop its head immediately. Or cover it, that it wouldn't look like a goose. It would look like any solid thing. And then he said, looked up again and said, get out, get out. I asked him, why are you shouting and saying that? He said, I see devils on the head of that goose. On the spot, I ran and I grabbed a piece of cloth and covered the head. He breathed and said, they left. And he reminded me and said, isn't Muhammad ﷺ saying, those who are min ashad al-nasi adaban yawm al-qiyamah, some of those who are deserving the most torture of Allah on the day of judgment are those who are making those statues? And that the Prophet ﷺ wants to get in a house where there are statues or tasawir. And he reminded me of Jibreel not getting into the house of the Prophet ﷺ once because of that incident. I said, how about the photographs? Does it affect you? He said, listen, any photographs hanging has got some magnetism in it, gravity for the shayateen. It's like grabbing shayateen to it. Don't hang it. If it is for necessity, always hide it somewhere. Even if it is on the cover of a book or a newspaper or a magazine, always turn it or cover it with something. Put them together and cover them. Don't give a shayateen any attraction to come in. And tell whoever you know of the Muslims, just for necessity, if you're forced to use those photos in your IDs or whatever. Allahul Musta'an. طيب, I want to ask you about this magnetism you're talking about, which is found in statues and photos. Is it true? Is it true magnetism, or you're just making it closer to my mind? He said, no, it's true 100%. Exactly like the magnetism which is taking you guys to the gravity. Satan, shaitan can smell it exactly as you smell the odors and the smell of anything. And he sees it from far away because it's like a rays or beams. It's like for you, like a cloud. So shaitan comes to it running as if he's coming to delicious food. There was an elephant toy for my kid, and another was like a doll. I said, those thrown on the moquette here. He said, no, these are toys for kids. They don't attract shayateen. I said, why? He said, I don't know the reason. I'm telling you what I can see. But didn't Aisha used to play with such a thing? Radiallahu anha.
The jinn said that?
Naam. And Muhammad did not prohibit her from that? Maybe the gravity or the magnetism in it is put out by the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of the amusement of the kids. Because I don't see them attracted to that. I told them, please, stare and gaze on those elephant, and can you see the isha'at, the beams and the rays like that coming from the goose? He said, no, it's too faint. Very, very little. Because kids playing with it and throwing it away are destroying much of those beams and radiation in it. I said, Subhanallah. Sadaqa Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I said to the Jinni Muslim, he said to me, don't abandon any room in your house without using it, moving in it, doing something in it. Don't lock a room for a long time, and for a month or 6 months or so. Because if you have a bedroom and you leave it empty without remembering Allah in it, or sleeping in it with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the devil prefers that place and he gets in it to sleep on that bed, and he occupies that room. I said, you mean the beds in the abandoned rooms are beds for shayateen, or any abandoned bed? He said, both. Any abandoned bed a shaitan would prefer to use, even if it is your bed which you used to use before and then you abandoned it. Hasn't Muhammad said, if someone leaves his bed and then comes back to it, it's highly recommended to clean it? Clean from what? 3 times with any towel or thobe? Because the Prophet said, he doesn't know who used it after him. I said, so it's not conditioned that the room should be abandoned for a long time. Would be abandoned for a long time. He said, of course not. But Any abandoned room or abandoned bed for a long time is 100% a shaitan's place. Not only one, many. As long as if the name of Allah is not remembered in that room or on that bed. He added, there are armies for Iblis spreading everywhere called al-mutasakki'un. What do you call those youth who walk aimlessly just for fun? Yeah. Youth, adolescents who just walk in the streets aimlessly. They don't have any aim. They have a terminology in English. Huh? Those who just walk to harm people or have fun, or they have no job to do. Huh? In Arabic we have the word mutasakka, going and coming back and going and coming back for nothing. He said there are some of the shayateen who are doing that. Some of them stay in the streets for women, to beautify them in the eyes of males. Even if she is ugly, he would always come and try to add something to her face or to her back, and pushes a believing person to look at them. And a fajr, a disobedient, would increase in that. Some of them are specialized in the lower part of a female. Would always tell her, whisper to her to keep shaking. And that word in the American culture, I recently started knowing that it is one of the shake and shaking and shaky. I'm like backwarded in that, guys. I should have known that a long time ago. But alhamdulillah, it's a blessing from Allah. Because when I keep listening to the kids singing and saying, yeah, shake and shaky, and most of your songs are like shake, shake, baby, right? Allah musta'an. Na'udhu billah, worse than that. I better not talk about this. And from those shayateen who is, and he keeps beautifying, decorating that area for any looker. This guy, those guys work day and night, non-stop, 24 hours. He only relaxes very shortly because he is addicted to that work. Most of the shayateen are more active during the night, in the darkness. If Allah would have enabled you to see them, you would be amazed of the huge number by the evening, the coming of the evening. Some of them are specialized in harming and hurting kids, making them fight against each other, or pushing them towards playing in dangerous places, high places, to fall and die, or get injured the rest of his life, or make some of them wound the others that the adults get involved, the parents. Then a shayateen who are, what's the terminology used?
Bombs.
How do you spell it?
B-U-M.
B-U-M, bums. A'udhu billah. BMW, bums. They interfere and pour oil over that fire of fighting, and in most cases it ends in a crime. I said, to that degree a shaitan would use man as a plaything. Where is the mind or mentality of man? He said, a wise person who remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not get involved in that. That's why the Prophet ﷺ repeated the advice, don't get angry. Ash-shayateen are aware of this in man, this weakness. So tens or hundreds of them would gather around man in this situation and push him down to get, and I see some shayateen of kids saying, fight, 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 during the breaks sometimes.
Yes.
Big ones who are 14 and 15. I'm in my office and I hear something like, I open the window and I see those groups. Two are fighting, and instead of separating them or helping them, the kids go fight, 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 fight until a supervisor runs and catches them before it's too. And I ask them, why are you doing that? They love to see that fight. Of course, they are surrounded by thousands of manarati shayateen. They must be. Allah musta'an. Let's stop here, inshallah ta'ala. We might continue next time.
What's the name of that book, sir?
An interview with a Jinni Muslim.
One quick question. They ever talk about different sizes?
The eyes of the shayateen go this way. What? They are oval from top to bottom.
So people make
The size of their heads, the size of their heads compared to their bodies are bigger than the size of ours compared to our bodies. The heads. Most of their mouths are like a fish's mouth. They do have what we do have in our bodies: heart, lungs, liver, and all that. And this would be the bait I throw to you until we meet next time. A female would get pregnant for 15 months. It's not 9 like ours or 7. 15. Most of the males are bald. Most of the females are dragging their hair on the ground. He will describe in detail their skeleton and what is meat and flesh to them in their concept. How do their ears look like? Their noses, the tips of their noses, how do they look like? Closer to the Japanese noses, Chinese ones, very small and tiny. Ears are very small and tiny, except those who come in the shape of an animal, because some of them come in shape of animals. I don't want to burn all the cards, but let me remind you again, we are not taking everything here for granted. It's what a trusted Jinni Muslim who would weep when he hears the Quran. He accepted Islam, and at the hands of that man.
Who's this man?
Egyptian.
What's his name?
Muhammad Isa Dawood. And this happened with a very famous, in front of a very famous Egyptian sheikh. Most of you have heard about him, Sheikh Kishk. He passed away like 10 to 15 years ago. Rahmatullah.
Muhammad Isa Dawood.
About the shayateen. Do they look different than the regular?
Yeah. He said that he explained the difference between the jinnis and the shayateen, and he said, you guys think of us as horrible shaped ones. If you would be able to see us, you would not compare the so-called beauty of human beings to the beauty of the jinnis. He said, some of us are marvelous in their beauty that you won't believe that they are jinnis.
What?
It's not the idea in your mind that all the jinnis are horrible. No. We're very normal, and put many lines after the word normal. We have very beautiful ones, males and females, that you're amazed if you can see us in reality.
And the shayateen?
Shayateen are totally different. They are horrible. They have got 2 little horns here, which the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the sun comes from between the 2 horns of Aisha. And he used the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ as-sahihah. So he's not giving you something without reference of the Kitab and the Sunnah. I'm not a mufti of Jinni, by the way, and I want to go back home safely and go to bed, sleep safely. I don't want any one of them to. Inshallah, alhamdulillah, I'm protected.
I have a question, because we know they're going to be in Jannah and Jahannam.
Na'am.
Will we see them then?
Listen to Surah Al-Rahman.
Nah, but I'm saying
I mentioned it last time.
Right, and I remember years ago you said when they heard it, they even had a more acceptance of that ayah. But I'm saying, will we see them then?
Will you see the angels?
No.
Will you see the angels? I'm asking a question.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Why not the jinn?
Nah, okay.
Will you see Allah?
Nah.
Why not the jinn? If we go to Jannah, inshallah, and ask Allah that.
I have one question. It's quite important.
One question, you're very humble, Akhi. Thank you very much. You got one question.
It's something that's kind of plagued me, but a student came to me, I think it was yesterday, and he mentioned something that brought it back. And he said that one of his relatives, in his grandmother's house, there was a Jinn there, and that his Jinn kept on coming back even when he recited the Quran, the Jinn, it wouldn't dispel the Jinn. And I know a brother whose ex-wife was like possessed by some Jinn and kept on being attacked by them, but she kept on reciting Quran and they would still come. So what is that? Why?
Now you're talking about position. And there is a whole chapter the Jinni talked to him about position and what happens exactly. And the tricks played by the Jinnis. And the characteristics which should be found in a healer. The one who tries to heal and get out the Jinni exorcism from someone. Leave that question until we come to that chapter. But you will know, you will learn many of their tricks. What they do, inshallah. Allah musta'an. La, sometimes there are weak ones, or those who get weak through reading Quran and Quran on them, that some of them are burnt up to half of them. And I had an experience myself with one Egyptian brother who's a Hafid of Quran, and his wife has got 7 recitations of Quran. And she was possessed before she learned the Quran. Actually, from the night of her wedding. And we did our best. There were 4 kafir jinnis in her, 1 male and 3 female. And the 4 of them were Christians from Sinai. Alhamdulillah, by the will of Allah, we got rid of that male. The 3 females were fierce, but with the reading of the Quran, especially some special ayat, we will talk about that. Inshallah, and you will take their numbers and the chapters. Alhamdulillah, 2 of them were dismissed and still struggling with 1. نسأل الله أن يشفيها. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cure her.
How did they survive it?
It's a very strange world.
They're not holding on to the sunnah properly. No, because I mean,
نسأل الله أن
she was reading Quran, yeah. Yes, reading.
You know, sometimes it paralyzes her tongue when she starts to read Ayat al-Kursi on herself. She gets unconscious in seconds. So that's the power and the ability of that one left. But she's getting weaker and weaker, that genie. And I hope, inshallah, in no time, she will leave her, inshallah.
I mean, is there a reason for that?
Lots of reasons. Yeah, for possession?
No, not for possession, but for the reason that they can withstand Quran.
This is rare. Yani in 99% of reading special ayat on them, they can never stand it. But this is a very rare case, like a trial and imtihan from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sabr. And that jinni said, I don't know how I'm staying. Because you killed and smashed all the others. Why I'm staying, that's something I don't know. Allahu A'lam. Like Iblis himself, he will mention some amazing things about Bermuda Triangle. And Formosa, amazing things that a shaitan refused to tell him. I said, but I have a feeling that there is something. He said, please don't ask me.
It's amazing though how you see certain things, I mean, since childhood and stuff, like, and then you learn Islam, and you see how people must really study, and you know what I mean? Even like the cartoon concept, when I'm about to do something, you see the little angel on one side, say, oh no, don't do it. Then you see the guy, the horns and everything, no, go ahead, feel her butt. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm serious. But I'm saying though, but then you learn as a Muslim, it might not be 100%, but you know you have one on the right, one on the left. This is what I'm saying.
Eating the apples from that tree until he's too fat, and the guy is like slapping him on the face.
Things, you know.
These people are probably inspired by the shaitan.
He talked by the UFOs, that trick of the UFOs, and said,
No, don't do it like they raised that. It's a little bit short.
He said many people think of the so-called other creatures, and most of it are done by jinnis.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah.
The UFOs and those vast and fast,
Right.
lights and shapes, and people witnessed and saw something in their fields. He said that most of it are done by special types of jinnis and devils to scare people. But he didn't deny the possibility of having other creations on other planets. He said, I can't confirm and I can't deny. What I can see and what I can feel, according to our ability, is it is possible.
They were created 2,000 years before Adam.
More than
So
that.
they have advances.
Because they were on Earth first, right? When destroyed, huh?
He said, while we were discussing and we came very close to each other, he usually had this sense of, we were created before you. And I had to give him the piece of advice, listen, do not feel proud because it's a sin. And he had to admit his mistake and ask me for forgiveness. I said, forgive me, I was ignorant when I said that to you. That you can't be proud of yourself because you were created before us. He said, Allimni, teach me.
Is it true that they're like the thing about the Jews that generally they're quite ignorant? Generally speaking, in regards to aliens.
Some of them are experts. The word ignorant which came is ignorant of how to deal with us and treat us. And one of the examples I mentioned is when that guy is running thunderously and slamming a door, and there was a baby jinni sitting playing with his brother at the edge of the door. They like edges, and a shaitan likes to sit between the sun and the shade. That's why we are prohibited from praying, half of us in the sun, or even sleeping, half of us in the... He gave all these deleels. He said, I can see devils and shayateen now. He's relaxing. Half of him in sun and half of him in the shade. Don't do like them.
And if you do that, you feel uncomfortable. If you get between the shade and the sun, you feel uncomfortable.
So, if he slams the door and he kills any of those babies, the mother does not think the same way we think. She wants the revenge. Here, some of them for 25 years. And some of them the whole life. When a person dies, his qareen doesn't die. And one of the big surprises he mentioned here is the qareen of the Prophet ﷺ is still alive. And he's given durus in Al-Baqiyah area to the jinnis. You can't get a space to get to him to learn. And any jinni who embraces Islam, the first thing he does is he goes to take knowledge at the hands of the qareen of the Prophet ﷺ in Al-Baqiyah area. That should be exciting, right?
You understand the Quran, for example, other jinni that lives in other countries, America, Asia. They understand the Quran, they have no problem.
Same way. Think of the humans, you think of the jinn. Exactly. You will find Shia amongst them, Sufiya amongst them, Christians, Jews. He said all
But if you read
types.
Quran, do you understand? For example, if I go to America,
Akhi, the Prophet ﷺ is sent to them as well.
you
They
understand
are
it.
قل أوحي إلي أنه استمع نفر من الجن
I know that.
فقالوا إنا سمعنا قرآنا عجبا يهدي إلى الرشد فآمنا به. How would they say that if they don't understand it? Come on, brother.
Can you tell us one of the ayahs from the Quran?
Sorry?
Can you tell us one of the ayahs from the Quran that they would use to get the genie out?
As I told you, Ayatul Kursi is on the top of them. Al-Fatiha, the two Mu'awwidhatain, 10 ayat of Surah Al-Saffat, mainly this is extremely hard on them. وَالصَّافَّاتِ صَفًّا.
First time,
The first 10. These are extremely hard, especially if it is read on a glass of water after, when they're still struggling, trying to stick to the, not leave the body. If it is read as a final step on the glass of water and then thrown on him or even given to the sick person to drink, it can destroy that jinni inside into pieces. And it either comes, 90% of it comes through vomiting into pieces, or if not, with the stool. And I don't want to go, Akhi, I'm hungry, Akhi. I'm hungry, excuse me. Have what? Exactly like men.
Battle.
And they come to support the believing people. And he said, in Afghanistan, I saw wonders how we supported and helped many of the Muslims in Afghanistan against the Russians. And his dream is to be able to go to Palestine and support the Muslims there and fight with them against the Jews. He said, I'm preparing myself for that. I want to die as a martyr.
And then there is a hadith in Yom Qiyamah, it will be when the trees start to speak, they will help Muslims.
Not only trees, Hajar wa Shajar,
Yes.
the rocks. And I'm hungry. I want to go home. My family would prepare some food for me.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون. والصلاة والسلام على نبينا الكريم محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وبعد.
All praise is due to Allah, who has created the heavens and the earth, and made darknesses and light. Then they who disbelieve in what Allah created, ascribing partners to Him, did it knowingly. This is a Dawah by the Hour production.
Thursday Night Halakha for October 8th, 2007, an interview with a Muslim Jinn, part 2.
In al-barr wal-bahr wal-jaw, all the land, the sea, and the air. There are so many types, colors, kinds, nations, and their world is like ours. Countries, kings, populations, tribes, princes, normal people, and their deens, their religions are like those of the human beings. Some are Muslims, alhamdulillah, and some are Christians, astray. Some are Jews, maghdubi alayhim, they deserve the wrath and the anger of Allah. Some are Hindus, some are Buddhists, some are atheists, and some are communists. And what is very wondering or wonderful is that one of those communist jinnis, he was preparing studies in the communist thinking and ideas and theology, debating and protecting it, defending it. And I don't know if it is for his fortune or he was unfortunate or fortunate that I never met with him or answered him. I was not there when he was debating with the rest of the jinn. He might have surrendered his will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the one who gave me his piece of news is my friend, the jinni Muslim. I asked my friend, is Iblis the father of jinn in general, like Adam, who was the father of the human beings? He said, no. Iblis is part of al-jinn, but he's not the father of al-jinn. I said, then what's the name of the father of al-jinn? He said, the knowledge I have received or got, Wallahu a'lam, is his name is Jinn. I said, what about Iblis? May Allah curse him. He said he's one of the children of Al-Jan or Jan. He was excellent in his deeds, likening himself to the angels. Then after that, he became bad and felt proud, as it is known to all of us Muslims, in his saying, and the jinni narrated the ayah, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ كان من الجن ففسق عن أمر ربه. That's of Surah Al-Kahf. Then I said, many people do believe that Iblis is the father of the jinn. He said, and what is their dalil for that? What's their evidence or knowledge? Al-Quran never said that. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never said that. Anyways, he is the father of shayateen. I said, so can you tell me the difference between a jinni and a shaitan? I know some of you are excited now, guys. He said, a shaitan is jinni, but not every jinni is shaitan. Shaitan is from the jinn, but not every jinn is shaitan. He said, can you clarify that more? Because I'm thinking of writing a book and telling my brothers, the human, what you're saying now. He said, it's simple. Iblis married a jinniya, a female jinni who believed in him and his ideas. And they have offsprings, dhurriya. All their offsprings are called shayateen. And they have different shapes. And most of them are maskh. Maskh is when someone is like distorted like a monster. What do you call this? If someone, those come in the movies and very scary. Naam, disfigured like dogs. And they have got camps and cities, mostly in the deserts, in the mountains, and the abandoned and very far away islands, and on the surface of the water of the sea. After my Islam, and still the jinni is talking, then I'm grateful to Allah, then to Ismail, your cousin, who was possessed by him, by that jinni. I can say that whoever is not Muslim and does not apply Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands and what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought is a shaitan, no matter how good looking he is, from the jinni or from amongst you, human. And in this case, Iblis is considered the father of both, even of you, human, if you're not believing. And he's the spiritual father for all. You might be amazed if I tell you that Iblis is the Za'im, the leader, the father, and the Ilah, the God for all the non-Muslim jinnis. They all work under his flag. And every one of them is satisfied or happy with whatever asalib or ways of life they're leading. I said, explain more. He said, I can't say anymore. Maybe later. Suddenly the jinni Muslim said, but let me tell you something. Iblis has got a huge kingdom, ministers, a government, big administrations, representatives that are huge. 5 of them, you've got to know them and warn yourself and others from. The first one, his name is Thabar. Thabar, with that. And he's the one who would come to anyone in hardship, anyone who lost a member of the family, like a mother losing her son or whatever. So he would whisper to her or to him to slap his face and reject the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe he took that name from Yad'u Thubura in the Quran. Yad'u Thubura, the one who slaps the face and screams because of the musibah, the hardship. And he is the one who puts on the tongues of those who are in hardship the words of rejection, dissatisfaction, and not accepting the qada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his qadr. The second one is Dasim. Still, the brother here is saying, I'm telling you according to the pronunciation of the Jinni, Dasim. And he's the one who does his effort, exerts his effort to destroy families and make wives hated, especially righteous ones, to their husbands until the husbands divorce them. And he is the most beloved kid of Iblis to his heart in his big administration. The third one is Al-A'war, the one-eyed. And he's the one who facilitates zina, adultery, and keeps pushing people towards it. And he sends his own kids decorating and ornamenting the lower part of any woman coming outside in the street not covered properly. And you guys have got so many of those women who are called Muslims these days doing that. The fourth one is called Maswat. And he is the one who teaches people telling lies. And he can come in the shape of a man, sits in a meeting or a gathering, spreads rumor and lies. He has a comment down here, maybe referring to Shaitan himself attending the people of Quraysh when they decided to kill the Prophet ﷺ in the shape of an old man. The fifth one is Zalambur or Zalnabur. And he's the one who is responsible for fairs and markets all over the world. Himself, Zalnabur, Ya Allah al-Musta'an. All over the world, himself and his kids, his offsprings. They are the main reason for deceit of the businessmen, buyer and seller, fighting in the aswaq, and all sort of evil corruption happening in. That's why we are asked, required to say isti'adha when we get in a market or a fair. I surprised him by saying, I want you to tell me something new which I don't know. I have read such a thing before. I know that. He said, no problem. I can narrate to you tens or even thousands of names of the helpers of Shaitan in his administration. But this is not so important. The most important is tell the people and remind yourself of seeking refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from them, from their whisper, from their evil. I asked him, are all these five still alive you talked about? Since Mujahid, one of the main interpreters of the Quran, you usually read Qatada, Dhahak, and Mujahid, one of the students of Ibn Abbas, talked about them more than 1,300 years ago in the tafsir, and everything is in the footnotes here. He brings the reference of Al-Bukhari, Muslim, or Tafsir Ibn Kathir. The name of that Jinni Muslim is Ibn Kanjur. As I told you, he's from India, and he was not Muslim before he became Muslim. He was Hindu, and he's a prince amongst the Jinn, and his followers are thousands. 10,000 of them adopted Islam at his hands after he became Muslim, and he's guarded by them. He's like an Amir, a prince. Ibn Kanjur, he answered saying, yes, they are still alive. The Jinni is Muammar. I told you before that most of us live for hundreds of years, and some live for thousands of years. I think I covered that last time. That's why I just linked this to that. طيب. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And then we talked about the Jinn is living, the Jinn is living in his house. When he asked him, can you see any Jinn is living in my house here? And he told him about those hanging. You remember names? Who still can remember their names? Muhammad, Saeed, Murjan, and Zubaydah. Allahu Alam, the good ones in your house, what they are called. But they like the reading of Quran and the Salah. And they do their best to protect the inhabitants of the house from the evil ones. طيب. All this we covered about the magnetism found in pictures, remember? And in the empty bed or abandoned bed. Let me continue from here. I promised that I would not take it by order. طيب. The shayateen, the Satans of Allah musta'an, stinking places. You guys won't take a ball and play outside? Basketball outside for a while? If you're tired. But if a command comes to you from your dads, would you do that? Yeah, we need privacy for a while. We need privacy for... Don't sell them. Vagina and wombs and that stuff. I don't want them to... He asked would you like them to switch off? Huh?
No, keep it on.
طيب.
Unless Rashad has a problem with it. You want to turn the microphone off and leave it on?
طيب. They can decide to leave and get outside as well. So the Jinni Muslim was saying, and some of the Satans, shayateen, are like groups and camps. Some of them are specialized in living in stinking places, very stinking places. He said, I want clarification. He said, some of the shayateen live in the vaginas of the prostitutes and the adulterers. So this would make it easy for him to push her towards working 24 hours. And for whoever sleeps with her. So whoever sleeps with her would come back and come back and come back because of that shaitan who gives him a special feeling. He's living inside. I said, are you kidding? Is that true or whispering? I mean, living in the womb? He said, حقيقة. أقسم بالله العظيم. So many shayateen and jinni confessed to me after they became Muslims that they are coming out from the womb of such female or from the vagina of such female. Allah musta'an. And then he continued, some of them live in the anus of the female or the male who are homos to make it lovable to them, that activity, and making it easier, the terminology for that out, sodomy. And some of them live in the lesbians' vaginas, that they become addicted to those activities. Some of them live in the place where the cows and the animals are slaughtered. They love the blood and the stinking blood and whatever is left in the slaughterhouse. Others live in the prostitution houses. They take it like a base, taken off from that base. That whoever go and visit those places would always love to come back because of the effect of those shayateen, not mainly that lady. And they whisper to him to bring more of his friends next time. As for the nightclub, so what you guys call as disco, is that right? He said yes. He said it's the place and the house of thousands of shayateen. And most of the position cases take place in those places. When they dance and they're crazy with that. And that music, subhanallah, the metallic or some of the types of these music turn people into really real madness. That I read about an American mother who killed her own son, who was 5 years old, sitting at the table because she was just into that heat of dancing that she picked up the knife and she was not aware what she was doing. And she killed him. After that, she regretted that much. And she wanted even to commit suicide, but someone stopped her at the last second. So, Allahumma musta'an. Na'udhu billah. So, many of the cases of possession takes place in those nightclubs because Satans love that type of music and singing, and they adore and worship dancing. Dancing to the shayateen is their god. They worship it. He said here, تعشق الرقص لدرجة لا تتخيلونها. You can never imagine how much they do love dancing. And still some people are spreading that among Muslims, saying innocent dance. I said, is this in the Muslim land or non-Muslim land? He said, yes. The shayateen wish man to die and be destroyed at any way. And they know that these homo practices are causing destructive diseases, destroying diseases. And Iblis is always teaching them that a Christian or a Jew or a communist can become Muslim at any second because of that vast spread of Islam. So try your best to kill him before he does that, through pushing him towards committing those. And the biggest number, you try to do that for the sake of not giving him a chance to think about Islam in the future. So not a single prostitution house in America or Europe without shayateen nesting in it. The khammarat, the pubs, and the factories, the wine factories, all of them are castles for shayateen. And the non-Muslim jinni, they adore khamr, wine, its smell, and especially the stinking smell of al-khamr. Now, he came to like the surprise of the whole book, but I'll delay it till next time. Where does Iblis live? I'll not cover that now. I might move to something else. UFOs. UFO. I said to him, his name became Mustafa Kangur, that's the jinni. Mustafa, let me tell you some of the stories which many people confirm it's real for some strange things they saw or experienced about UFOs. And I'll show you some pictures which were taken by some of them. And I want you to tell me what you think. He said, whatever I know, I'll tell you. He said, one American said that, an American guy said that he saw a very strange thing, body or shape, based on 6 legs. And he saw some human-like creatures picking up special flowers from his farm garden while he was hiding behind the grape trees, his grape trees. And he was like very upset seeing those who were careless stealing his stuff. So he didn't stand that, and he came from behind the grapes to run towards them, thinking that they were normal thieves. But when his name is Mass, that's the name of the man. Mass, M-A-S-S. When he was only about 10 meters away from them, one of them immediately turned, and he had something like a remote control in his hand, in his right hand. He directed that jihaz to him and then put it back in a container which was hanging on his left shoulder. At this moment, at this second, Mas felt paralyzed, rigid. He couldn't move his head, neither his head nor his hands, and he didn't feel anything. And after this took place, Mas described those creatures as very short ones, dwarves, 120 centimeters long, which is divided by inches. You would talk about like 40 inches. The head is so big, which doesn't have the, any relation with the body in the size. It's huge. And the head is immediately on the shoulders without a neck. There was no neck. Mas also mentioned that they got hair in their head, and the mouth was like just a small hole. All that is, the brother is describing to the jinni, and the jinni is listening. And the eyes, they look like man's eyes, but without eyebrows. And their skin, eyebrows. And the skin is so soft. It looks like glass, so soft. And the color is like those who are Middle Europeans in the midst of Europe. The width of the two shoulders are a little bit more than the width of the head, a little bit. Mas noticed that those two who turned to him one after one, they have got 2 arms and 2 legs. But he couldn't see any hands or fingers, or even toes. And they were wearing vague clothing, like one piece, sticking to their bodies. On the right side of them, there was like a small container and another bigger on the left side. Mas said those 2 particular ones went back to the remote control of that set, which was 2.5 meters high, meaning double size any one of them. And they kept looking at Mas from the top of that flying thing. It looked like glass. There was a door sliding like a hydraulic from bottom to top. Then all their legs disappeared, and there was like a silent explosion. And without any noise, that thing moved up. And when it came about 30 meters high, times 3, that's 90 feet, 100 feet, it disappeared immediately without showing any direction it went to, as if it was a light which was put out. The jinni looked at me and said, I swear God, these are jinn. But they came in a bigger shape than their real shape. I said, where are they from? He said, I don't know. But they might be inhabiting some regions, we call them under red sound, or what is the red rays or violet rays, ultraviolet, under, taht, not over the clouds, or they might be inhabiting the depths of the oceans from the inhabitants of those. He said, now I'll show you the picture of what a lady called Axia, sent by a lady called Axia, and it's got some special stamps which are weird and strange. That's 87. Let's take a move here.
You're gonna need to write down where you stop at and where you stop.
La, we said that we'll pick up from different parts. Yes, al-haml wal-wulada, pregnancy and delivery for the jinn. He said the life of the jinn is close to our life of human. There is love hatred, agreement, disagreement, and so on. But their weddings are different. There they can come back. Halas. Their weddings are different. Even in how much they cost. Between a class and a class, a different class. Family to another family. City to a city, a country to a country. You came with their wedding here. And even their meeting or sleeping together is like us. But what fits their tiny sizes. And even he practices that thing a man practices, a male practices, when he's provoked or moved. And he's got sperm, lust, deep love, feelings. I'm telling you, we Jinni are very close to you in all these. Salam. The wedding night with the Jinnis are like that for the Insi. They are alone by themselves, husband and wife. And she's not virgin anymore that night because she was virgin before. And that honor in our society as Jinnis is as great, if not more, as it is considered in you, human beings. How old are usually the Jinnis when they get married? He's a journalist. He knows what to ask. He said immediately after, reaching the age of puberty. But most of the Jinn do marry at the age of 170 or 180. He himself is 180. He's an adolescent. Until the age of 200, up to 150. This is the normal range of their marriage. Whoever is more than that, like 300, is like a guy amongst you who is in his 40s, early 40s. And he's intending to marry. Isn't that something not familiar in your societies? Especially the Muslim ones, someone who has reached 40 and is not married yet. I said, as for pregnancy and delivery, does it have any pain with your females? I would not say I will stop here. No, I know. He said yes. Because it's creation coming out from the womb of another creation. A son from a mother. Actually, the suffering of a female Jinni is more than the suffering of a female human. I said, why? He said, because the time of pregnancy is not 6 to 9 months as you have, it's 15 months. And then after that, that process of pain for delivery starts, which is sometimes extreme. You have to know that in one pregnancy, the kids are from 7 to 9. Not one. And sometimes an exception happens and she is pregnant in 12. A mixture of males and females. I said, and does she nurse her kids? Give them a baby Jinni would take the age of a life of one of you. How old a human being lives normally.
You're talking about the number of...
Yeah, the years he's taken milk. He said the baby Jinni stays without moving much or talking much for a very long time, and most of the time, 90% of the time, he's asleep. I said, and after that, he said, normal, he grows up, learns, he gets to schools, universities, exactly like yours. But we are high-tech. And our knowledge is fitting our life. Some of us learn medicine. Others learn architecture. Others learn journalism, and arts. Exactly like you, but whatever fits our own life. I said, marriage between human and jinn, is that possible? And those who narrated stories about that, he said, it's impossible. This, you are a creation and we are a different creation. You have your own nature and we have our own. Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran then? And the jinn is giving him ayat of Quran. And one of his signs is that he has created for you azwaj min anfusikum, from your own gender, human. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, that you would relate to them and get the tranquility and the love. This ayah applies to the jinnis as well. He is created from our own gender, jinniyas, for marriage. People like to be with each other, and the jinn like to be with each other. I said, but there are many events that ensure that this type of marriage sometimes takes place. It has been said that Balqis of Yemen, one of her parents was a jinni, the mother. He said, listen to me, this marriage is not real, except in one case. If that jinni comes in the shape of a human being, or if the female jinni comes in the shape of a lady. And this is extremely, extremely rare, or almost impossible. And you know, you have a rule in Islam that exception has got no rule. He's a faqih. And to ensure this to you, I would tell you that even if such things take place, it's extremely what? Odd and rare. And if it happens, surely no pregnancy takes place. No matter if the husband is a jinni or the wife is the jinniya. I said, can you clarify more? He said, the human sperm is different from the jinni sperm. And the womb of a jinniya is totally different from a womb of a human. I said, so saying that the mother of Balqis was a jinniya is false and it has no truth. He said, I don't doubt that. Because the sperm, the human sperm in the womb of a jinniya would totally change and be destroyed if it happens. And the same thing of the sperm of a jinni male into the female. How come a jinni would give birth to another jinni which is not seen, and a human would give birth to a human which is seen? Each one of us and you has got his own nature, please. This is the creation of Allah, and this is another creation. Can adultery take place between shayateen and ins and human? And I mentioned to him the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. If a husband sleeps with his wife and he doesn't mention the name of Allah, a jinn will cling on his organ and he would do the action with him. He said this is true, but it's a warning, prophetic warning to every Muslim that he has got to cover himself from the jinnis and the shayateen with the name of Allah. You have to say Bismillah. And he mentioned the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Allahumma jannibna shaitan wa jannib shaitana ma razaqtana. Because any shaitan or corrupt jinn attending that, the name of Allah would make a veil between him and the two. If not, he will participate with the human male and he will EJACULATE with him. But this will destroy the sperm of the human being if it mixes with the sperm of shaitan. And this is one of the main reasons for abortion in you, human. And this
confirms what I told you, that it can never be created into a creature in the womb of a human. Huh? In 2 weeks and then miscarriage. طيب. He said, last week, I have dismissed a jinni who caused the miscarriage of a woman 4 times. And my friend mentioned the name of that woman and where she is from, and I knew that woman and I knew the case, but I never knew that it was because of jinni, and I keep that a secret for covering on that family. Then he continued, and this is a dalil, an evidence for what I'm saying to you, that marriage or sleeping between a jinni and a insi is not possible. And if it might happen, it would be extremely rare. And remember, we're talking about stealing an honor or adultery, fornication here. No matter how you call it, it's still a big crime. A mixed gender. Is he shaitan, the son of shaitan, or jinni? We'll continue next time, inshallah. The one like a she-male, you might say. Or he what? He female? He she? MashaAllah, you guys have got rich language here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك استغفر الله سبحانه وتعالى استغفر.
But it's like, for example,
Pass me
if
that.
they have
That plate. Go ahead.
If they have, like, for example, castles,
The huge one, the big one.
and houses and so on
Nah.
on the surface of the sea
Mm.
or other areas,
No.
and we have like planes flying through it and ships, and you have hurricanes,
No.
like, with mass, like, for example, I can't penetrate this. So if they have buildings and so on, and a ship sails through, you see what I'm saying?
It's intermingling with our world, but there, as he said, there are barriers between us and them. Especially with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that splits everybody on his own affairs. He's watching you and seeing what you're doing, but he's not able to affect you if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you dhikr, the remembrance. If you don't, not necessarily he affects you, but you are at the risk of being affected by him, especially the bad ones. The bad jinnis, corrupt jinnis, or the shayateen, who are all bad. That's what he explains. So that intermingling between the worlds show us how weak we are and how little we are compared to those jinnis that a female would have 12 in one pregnancy, probably. Everything. He said everything. Mm-hmm. No, but that's the normal life. She's not the only one. Suckling 7 is like a human suckling 1. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who ordained that on them, if this is 100% true, inshallah, whatever the guy has got, Quran and Sunnah for it. And whatever it does not contradict, I cannot deny it or belie it, and I cannot take it for granted. He looked like human to the guy until he came closer. He thought that they might be wearing something to hide. Until they turned, he found the reality now, and that effect of that thing, as Mas was saying, paralyzed him in his place until they left. But he watched everything until they left without being able to react or scream or run until they disappeared. He narrated that, and he mentioned 3 other incidents which someone took a picture, and he showed it to the jinni, and the jinni said, "Uqsimu billah, these are jinnis." Now, these are jinnis. I know these. These are jinnis, and I've seen some of them before.
You missed the previous class, though, where you
he talked about.
You can buy the thing for 5 riyals. Ah,
But then there was a class that he didn't take too, the pre-crit class.
Yeah, what's that?
That one is top secret. No, but we didn't expect that one. No one expected that one, but he described how the Jinn looked. He kind of went over it again in this. He went over it again, but some of the things that the first part was good because he talked about the author and how the author approached,
we came
taking this information.
But also, like the question he had mentioned, there are like incidents of people report planes disappearing, like he mentioned the British family, stuff like that.
He told them, he confirmed that most of those are jinnis.
Right.
Jinnis who are enabled to come in a shape that humans see, but he said still it's rare. That's why you don't experience that every day, everywhere.
But the thing is, also the Jinn passed through you and you don't feel it.
Now they're sitting on the sofa. Sitting on the sofa, down here, by the door, everywhere. They hear us and they are reacting, looking at each other and say, I see, they know much about us now.
Wait, see, if you say they pass through us, that's contradictory because...
Not possess. Actually, passing through us is a type of possession, but they don't usually do that. They pass by you.
Because if a child can kill a Jinni child by slamming the door or something, that means there's some interaction with the masses.
No, sahih.
I mean, there may be certain things, but not everything is going to affect
getting into or passing through was rarely mentioned as a normal activity. Actually, they fear us.
What about the hadith?
They fear us, especially the one who carries Quran.
What about the hadith?
Reads Quran.
As far as like the blood flowing through the body.
The ulama talked about that and said the running of the shaitan in the blood here resembles his effect on the ones who doesn't mention Allah, because the rest of the hadith is saying فَإِذَا ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَنَسْ. If he remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his way in that blood is blocked, so he's out. Yeah. But he's not possessing, that's a different thing.
We're not saying possessing, no. We're talking about, I mean, we don't know. I mean, this is the island of the Jinn, they have their own world. And we don't know what causes interaction.
But we do know how to protect ourselves.
Yeah, we know how to protect ourselves, but I mean, we can't. My thing is that to try to logically.
It's hard.
To logically try to come to some logical conclusion.
He came to that conclusion saying that you are a different nature.
It's very dangerous. Yeah. I mean, before you accept something, to logically prove it, you can't do that.
Sahih.
It's impossible. No, but at the same time, we know certain properties, right? For example, if they could hear Rasul reciting the Quran, that means they must have some form of sound transmission. The fact that they can see us means they have.
And hear us. إنه يراكم. The ayah is very clear. إنه يراكم هو وقبيله من حيث لا ترونهم. ما أنا أقول لك. وليش أبو هريرة شاف الجني؟ يعني بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى في أحيان قليلة جدا لحكمة يعلمها الله سبحانه وتعالى. Why did that mass see the jinnis? I said, and why did Abu Hurairah see the jinni? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might allow it in rare cases or some cases.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, we don't know. But then again, all of these things are not really, I mean, the way I see it, we should treat these things as a dhikr,
neutral,
a dhikr, and encouragement to seek refuge with what the Prophet has taught us. This is the real benefit, not to try to figure out whether they got 25 breaths.
You can't. It's not easy.
Or do they run and jump like we do? That's not the point. We know certain things like they affect us. They can't have an effect on us.
If Allah wills.
If Allah wills, and we can have an effect on them. And they can do some bad things.
If you can kill them unaware, so you have an effect on them.
And they have armies, and that they're against us. So the shayateen, of course. These are the things that we need to benefit from. Not so much as clinging to how many I got hanging from my ceiling or things like that. It's not. The point is that it should encourage. I mean, it should make us aware of the reality of the world of the animal Jinn.
I think one of the biggest questions is, do they have a whisper assigned to them as well?
No, they do. لا قرين لا.
No.
If you mean a whisper or a whisperer. لا, he didn't say that. He didn't mention that.
You know what?
Yeah, they might have.
Did the guy mention like how here, when it begins, like
in contact with Jinn? This guy, you know, Mustafa.
In contact with the rest of the jinn?
How did he come to get the
He mentioned that at the introduction of the book and said, "Forgive me from giving you the details. I can't."
Oh, he didn't?
But he was possessing his cousin Ismail, and that journalist was very much interested in the topic of jinn many years before, and he had many researches in that field and read too much about it until he managed dealing with his cousin who was possessed, and he gave da'wah to that jinni in Saad when he talked to him until he embraced Islam at his hands. And after embracing Islam at his hands, they agreed that he won't harm the other one on condition he finishes with him that type of interview, because they became good friends. He said, apart from that, I can't tell you any more details because I keep it for myself. If you want to believe it, believe it. If you don't have to. That's what he said. تفضل.
Can the jinn come in the form of somebody that you know? Like maybe he'll go to his house, but then I see him walking.
The case he mentioned, this would be very rare. But the case he mentioned here is what you call the spirit, bringing spirits or of the dead ones. What is it? What's the terminology for it in English? Yeah, and you want to get your great grandfather. The qareen of them, their qareen, actually the one who brings them forth has got his own qareen, having some agreement with the qareen of the dead ones, who used to live with the grandma all her life. And then the grandma passed away. He didn't pass away because he lives for hundreds of years or even thousands of years. So some of them can have some business or agreement satisfied or being even bribed by that jinni or qareen to get that information, or to come in the shape looking like the grandma and using her own voice, which some of the little kids were familiar with. They know it. Because the grandma died, passed away when that boy was 10 or 11. He still can recognize her voice when she used to talk to him when she was alive. So for some reason, if he can bring that forth to steal the money or get some money from him, he would put on his tongue things he wants the guy to pay for, the soothsayer or the black magic practitioner. Most of it is what? Nasb, just absorbing the money of the people through these filthy ways. But it's not really the grandma, it's the qareen of the grandma who knows all the details of her life because he was with her or she was with her. Allahu A'lam. We read about Jesus Isa alayhi salam coming to a possessed person, and he ordered the demon to come out. And the demon came out, that's in the Bible. And then that demon possessed a herd of swine, which became mad on the spot and rushed towards the river and committed suicide and died. This sign found and mentioned in the Bible, together with the very famous saying of Isa that there would be coming some people who pretend they can do such and such and that. They are sahara, they are liars. Not everybody bringing something strange on his hand is a miracle, or he can pretend he's a prophet. This is another clear saying in the Bible that Isa was warning against those who use jinnis or black magic to fascinate people and try to persuade Isa alayhi salam in the Bible. So there are many signs found in the Bible and in the Old Testament about that. Wallahu a'lam. He answered that question. He was asked about that, and he said, still, if the jinnis can come in the shape of a human being, and he said, don't think that this is easy. One of the hardest things for any jinni is changing his form, because this would mean sometimes dying for him, and he would be at the risk of being killed at any time if the human realizes what happened. And he might not be able to get back. It's not an easy thing like pressing a button. He said it's extremely hard, and it's like, you're skinning someone, taking the skin of someone. He said it would happen, but with very, very few number of jinnis and shayateen, especially those Allah gave them married. The word married is very special powers to do that. Yet they suffer, and they're like exhausted, as if giving out their souls when they change. And if they do it, they never do it mostly or as a habit or tradition, maybe once in their life, that very few number.
I'm talking about people who say that, my ex-wife, she said she knew somebody who she sees like these Jinn in her house sitting on her bed and stuff like that.
But how can she describe him? And how would she know he's a jinn?
Because, other people can't see them.
Yet it's not his real shape. He might have come to in a different shape, which is different from a jinni as well.
Yeah, this person.
Hmm?
This person can see. Not everybody can see, but this individual, you can see them.
If he's familiar dealing with jinnis, with magic, yes. He said something like that. If a black magic practitioner is so close and deep and devoting himself to that shaitan, a shaitan can appear to him in his real shape sometimes. He said so. So, if that relative was a non-Muslim, a Muslim, that's a different case. Allahu A'lam. I can't give fatwa about that.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أوحي إلي أنه استمع نفر من الجن فقالوا إنا سمعنا قرآنا عجبا يهدي إلى الرشد فآمنا به ولن نشرك بربنا أحدا وأنه تعالى جد ربنا ما اتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا وأنه كان يقول سفيهنا على الله شططا وأنا ظننا أن لن تقول الإنس والجن على الله كذبا وأنه كان رجال من الإنس يعوذون برجال من الجن فزادوهم رهقا وأنهم ظنوا كما ظننتم أن لن يبعث الله أحدا وأنا لمسنا السماء فوجدناها ملئت حرسا شديدا وشهبا وأنا كنا نقعد منها مقاعد للسمع فمن يستمع الآن يجد له شهابا رصدا وأنا لا ندري أشر أريد بمن في الأرض أم أراد بهم ربهم رشدا.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Say, O Muhammad, it is revealed unto me that a company of the Jinn gave ear, and they said, Lo, we have heard a marvelous Qur'an, which guideth unto righteousness, so we believe in it, and we ascribe no partner unto our Lord. And we believe that He, exalted be the glory of our Lord, hath taken neither wife nor son, and that the foolish one among us used to speak concerning Allah an atrocious lie. And lo, we had supposed that humankind and jinn would not speak a lie concerning Allah. And indeed, O Muhammad, individuals of humankind used to invoke the protection of individuals of the jinn, so that they increased them in revolt against Allah. And indeed they supposed, even as ye suppose, that Allah would not raise anyone from the dead. And the jinn who had listened to the Qur'an said, We had sought the heaven, but had found it filled with strong warders and meechers. And we used to sit on places high therein to listen. But he who listeneth now findeth a flame in wait for him. And we know not whether harm is boded unto all who are in the earth, or whether their Lord intendeth guidance for them.
وَأَنَّا مِنَّا الصَّالِحُونَ وَمِنَّا دُونَ ذَلِكَ كُنَّا طَرَائِقَ قِدَدًا وَأَنَّا ظَنَنَّا أَن لَّن نُّعْجِزَ اللَّهَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَن نُّعْجِزَهُ هَرَبًا وَأَنَّا لَمَّا سَمِعْنَا الْهُدَىٰ آمَنَّا بِهِ فَمَن يُؤْمِن بِرَبِّهِ فَلَا يَخَافُ بَخْسًا وَلَا رَهَقًا وَأَنَّا مِنَّا الْمُسْلِمُونَ وَمِنَّا الْقَاسِطُونَ فَمَنْ أَسْلَمَ فَأُولَئِكَ تَحَرَّوْا رَشَدًا وَأَمَّا الْقَاسِطُونَ فَكَانُوا لِجَهَنَّمَ حَطَبًا وَأَن لَّوْ اسْتَقَامُوا عَلَى الطَّرِيقَةِ لَأَسْقَيْنَاهُم مَّاءً غَدَقًا لِّنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ وَمَن يُعْرِضْ عَن ذِكْرِ رَبِّهِ يَسْلُكْهُ عَذَابًا صَعَدًا.
And among us there are righteous folk, and among us there are far from that. We are sects, having different rules, and we know that we cannot escape from Allah in the earth, nor can we escape by flight. And when we heard the guidance, we believed therein, and whoso believeth in his Lord, he fareth neither loss nor oppression. And there are among us some who have surrendered to Allah, and there are among us some who are unjust. And whoso hath surrendered to Allah, such have taken the right path purposefully. And as for those who are unjust, they are firewood for hell. If they, the idolaters, tread the right path, we shall give them to drink of water in abundance, that we may test them thereby. And whoso turneth away from the remembrance of his Lord, he will thrust him into ever-growing torment.
وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا وَأَنَّهُ لَمَّا قَامَ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ يَدْعُوهُ كَادُوا يَكُونُونَ عَلَيْهِ لِبَدًا قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَدْعُو رَبِّي وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِهِ أَحَدًا قُلْ إِنِّي لَا أَمْلِكُ لَكُمْ ضَرًّا وَلَا رَشَدًا قُلْ إِنِّي لَن يُجِيرَنِي مِنَ اللَّهِ أَحَدٌ وَلَنْ أَجِدَ مِن دُونِهِ مُلْتَحَدًا إِلَّا بَلَاغًا مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرِسَالَاتِهِ وَمَن يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَإِنَّ لَهُ نَارَ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا حَتَّى إِذَا رَأَوْا مَا يُوعَدُونَ فَسَيَعْلَمُونَ مَنْ أَضْعَفُ نَاصِرًا وَأَقَلُّ عَدَدًا قُلْ إِنْ أَدْرِي أَقَرِيبٌ مَا تُوعَدُونَ أَمْ يَجْعَلُ لَهُ رَبِّي أَمَدًا عالم الغيب فلا يظهر على غيبه أحدا إلا من ارتضى من رسول فإنه يسلك من بين يديه ومن خلفه رصدا ليعلم أن قد أبلغوا رسالات ربهم وأحاط بما لديهم وأحصى كل شيء عددا